Welcome to Classical Chats, a series where I talk to all kinds of people who love classical music, anyone from professional musicians to everyday casual listeners, or even you. And yes, really, or even you, because there is a form for you to sign up if you want to come on and share your story about classical music. So don't forget to sign up. Oh, by the way, I'm Tiffany. I'm a classical pianist and also the founder of Together with Classical, which is a non-profit dedicated to sharing everyone's passion for classical music and bringing everyone together. If you've been subscribed and watched any of our previous episodes, you know that we have been in a great collaboration with Dreamstage, which is this really wonderful live streaming platform for artists to perform. And these are really high quality concert productions, and I was very happy to have performed on it, and I'm very happy to have this collaboration with them through my charity. Live streaming has become the only way in these days to bring thousands of people together in a concert. And so that's why I'm very excited for Dreamstage and happy to be in collaboration with them. In today's episode, we have violinist Nathan Meltzer. He's going to be performing on October 4th on Dreamstage. He just founded a really interesting initiative that I'm excited to talk to him about, how he's trying to diversify classical music by programming some unknown composers in his recital programs.
Hello.
Hey Nathan.
How are you?
Good. You look very professional with your headphones.
Thank you.
I'm in a weird state. I just I just read an article about the whole Beethoven debate. I thought it would be actually very relevant because of what you're starting with the
So that Beethoven debate. Okay.
Yeah, I guess there are too many Beethoven debates now.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you listen to the podcast? I haven't listened to the podcast. I just read the article about it. But I thought maybe a possible interesting launch point, whatever this is called, to talk about something that you're doing, which I think is very interesting in terms of how you're diversifying, yes, classical music and including some unknown composers.
Yeah, so I'll get back to the Beethoven debate. I haven't thought much about it, but yeah, so recently, and part of the reason I'm so exhausted now is because we're,
a lot of things to handle.
Yeah, doing some fun projects. But a couple months ago, I founded, along with some colleagues at school, a online concert series, or a concert series that currently is online. We're called Opus Illuminate, and we're dedicated to programming and performing works by composers from underrepresented communities and heritages. It started out, right after the murder of George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter protests were occurring, and so I was, in the middle of lockdown, just kind of feeling this, kind of, I think we'd say a kind of helplessness that I feel like a lot of people were going through at that time. Just like, how can we be helpful from the confines of our homes to like make systemic change, especially as musicians. And actually, I went to a conversation that some of my friends were having with Dr. Rob Deemer, who's composition faculty at the Fredonia University, and the founder of this website called the Institute for Composer Diversity. And it's this amazing online catalog of composers from living and dead composers from every ethnicity, gender identity, sexual orientation, that is other than straight white men. And so this is the database has over 4,000 entries for different composers and links to their websites. And so it's this really cohesive and amazing way to kind of explore this untapped realm of music, because we all kind of learn the same things, we play the same things, which is totally fine. But I just thought it was really interesting to explore this like completely new realm that most of us aren't particularly familiar with. And so once I was, the next day I was just kind of having fun on the website and like exploring all these composers and listening to their pieces, and it was really, really inspiring to me. So I reached out to some of my friends, and because we had been doing, a lot of people at that time were doing, like asynchronous recording projects where, you try to record a Beethoven trio, and,
with the Zoom.
3 little squares. Yeah. And so I was wondering, if we could try to, as opposed to doing like Beethoven trios in this format, um, we do, pieces by Coleridge Taylor or Eleanor Alberga or any of these people that I had recently discovered thanks to the Institute for Composer Diversity. And so we've been doing that format of concert for about 3 months now, where it's either, solo performances or, these boxes kind of thing. And we're really excited to be actually putting on a festival in New York, a live festival in the end of October with a sibling organization that we're part of, that's also dedicated to EDIB work. And so that's what I've been trying to put together is this,
That's very
we're going
exciting.
live. Yeah, it's very exciting.
Yeah, because I don't personally know any other projects that's like that. So what's it been like preparing all of that and founding? I mean, I myself also founded this thing together with classical during the pandemic. So I can imagine the kind of busyness and overwhelmingness of everything. So what's it been like in the process? What did you learn, I guess? Aside from, the wonderful music of underrepresented and kind of unknown composers. I personally learned something from just looking at your concert program because I've never heard of that composer before. But we can talk about that in the next point. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, definitely the most inspiring part is finding the music and making the programs.
Yeah, I was wondering how you chose because I'm sure there are many. So how did you choose which pieces and which composers to highlight?
It's a long process and one that I really enjoy, but it's really, the website has a way that you can narrow your search a little bit. You can choose composers who wrote, string quartets or piano trios or certain genres of music, and you can also search based on, which kind of demographic you're looking for. And so I would basically go through, look for every composer that wrote, chamber music and specifically quartets. And then, I would go to each of their websites and listen to all of their quartets if recordings were available and look at the perusal scores. And so it's a long, but really rewarding process because I get to learn about not only the singular kind of piece I'm looking for, but I get to listen to a lot of, the material from each of these composers. And so, it takes, probably about, to program a handful of concerts takes about 10 hours of just like really listening to everything and like finding everything because, everything is unknown.
What's the process of selection? Like, I don't know, is it different between choosing pieces of known composers to play versus choosing pieces of unknown composers? How do you choose? Is it different?
Because when we play pieces by known composers, programming that, what I'm learning is that there's an extra step to programming that we kind of get to move past because we know a lot of common practice repertoire. And so when we put programs together, we think about, how the pieces that we already know are going to fit together. But it's the most time-consuming part of this process is figuring out what the pieces sound like. And since we don't have to do that when we program normally, because we know what the Brahms sonata sounds like and how it's going to work with the Beethoven sonata, the tricky thing there is the variety. But there's also there's still that issue of variety, but then you put on top of that, some of the pieces don't have recordings because they were written in the last couple of years or because the composer doesn't have the means to put recordings on YouTube or on their website or anything. And so you sometimes have to really go looking for recordings of the piece or looking for the perusal scores just to get a sense of what they're going to sound like. And so that's the hardest part is
a lot of sight reading.
A lot of sight reading, yeah. And then we get back to step one, which is try to create a balanced program. And something that we try to go for a lot in this online format is trying to move past the restrictions of instrumentation, because for general festival concerts you have to be economic about the people you hire to play. and make sure you get the most, you know, if you bring a violinist into play, they should play multiple pieces and play, you know, and you know, you kind of have to get everyone in the same hall together. So you're going to choose all people that are from the New York area or whatnot. But with us, we're, you know, really enjoying the freedom of being able to program a pianist from Turkey and then a saxophone player from New York and then a clarinet quintet from LA. And we're really trying to have fun with that. I think that's also, it's a lot of fun.
It's very international ensembles. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's exciting. So I guess we'll get a preview, not really a preview since you're playing an entire piece, obviously, of an unknown composer and what that kind of experience is going to be like for people later who might be tuning in to your future recitals just programmed with unknown composers. So can you tell me how you chose, I have a cheat sheet here because I really don't know this composer before, Samuel Coleridge Taylor's sonata.
Coleridge Taylor.
Buried it in between Beethoven, Brahms, and then you're ending with Ravel for your Dreamstage recital.
Yes, that was one of our premiere, the first concert of Opus Illuminate. When I was in the very early stages of discovering this world of music. I was just looking for pieces in the public domain because most of the music of the past is of a similar demographic, but there are a few shining stars of like Joseph Malone and Samuel Coleridge Taylor are the two that come to mind. And so I found this really amazing recording of this piece by Albert Sammons, who's this famous, very, very old school violinist. And so I was listening to this recording, and it's, you know, Chrysler, you know, that Chrysler sensibility and the really juicy, slidey stuff, like times 10.
Wow.
And so I was listening to this. It's amazing.
I have to listen to this. You have to send me the link.
Yeah, so I was listening to this recording, just like, oh my God, I've never heard this piece, and here it is, just this super expressive. It's very similar to Grieg in a way, where it's very folksy and very human, and so I've been just playing around with it for a few months, and I'm really glad that I'm going to be able to perform the entire piece live for the first time on Dreamstage, because I've been sharing with my teachers, and my teachers, like, every time when they first heard it, like, wow, this is a really amazing piece, and it's a really shame that it doesn't get a lot of Coleridge Taylor's work doesn't get premiered much, but I'm really glad that I'm going to be able to do this, because it's one of my favorite pieces to play right now.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So what made you pair the others around it, or how did you come up with the program?
So, the first thing that comes to mind whenever I program is really just, I try to listen to myself and think, what are the pieces that I really love right now? And of course, I always try to make some variety things, and I not just do the same kind of music over and over again. But I was listening to a lot of Brahms over the lockdown, and so I was like really craving that that kind of style of sound and kind of style of harmony. And actually, I haven't Brahms sonatas are something that I've actually never got a chance to perform before. So this again was a great opportunity for me to finally play this piece that I've been hearing for my entire life, and have loved for my entire life. And yet Beethoven 8 is I think just a great pairing with the Brahms and Coleridge Taylor, which have a similar kind of vibe, not just because they're both in D minor, but they're kind of a stormy, soulful, late romantic kind of writing. And Beethoven 8 is just this like piece of pure joy and exuberance. And I think starting with Beethoven 8 and going to these late romantic things, and then going back to Ravel, which is very it's joyful in a different way. It's not classic joy, but it's kind of, it's ironic and peppy and really fun. So
Yeah,
it was
sounds like
just
a fun.
pieces I was pieces I was super interested in over the lockdown, and things I really wanted to play again.
That's exciting. Should we
Yeah.
end on an exciting note, or should we end on a debate note about Beethoven?
Um, let's end on a positive note.
Yeah.
Because Beethoven gets too philosophical and talking about,
I don't know.
cultural
maybe
elitism and
so.
whatnot. But
I just thought it was an interesting possible segue that we didn't really choose to do it from, based on this recent article debate about whether Beethoven or playing Beethoven is perpetuating elitism. Elitism.
elitism, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if that was relevant to your project in any way,
I mean,
philosophically.
yeah, it's something that you have to, I'm not advocating um, for, a complete overhaul of standard practice classical
Yeah.
music, because it's amazing. It's amazingly well written music, and that's why it's been so meaningful to so many people for hundreds of years. And I don't want to counteract that in any way, because it's really true. Um, but I think as artists, here's the philosophical side of this, and what I
Hey, I
spend a lot of
study
time thinking about.
philosophy, so I don't mind philosophical talk.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, why I think that this effort is so important, and why I I think it's very important to program people. Why it's really socially important to program people like Coleridge Taylor, as opposed to just I think making the program better. It's an important part of social work, because I think it harkens back to like what our role should be as artists, and what, for me, I want my role to be as an artist, which is, the famous Hamlet quote, which I'm not going to quote, but the general idea of it is that to hold a mirror up to society and to reflect upon society and its values. And I think that when we continuously program pieces that are reflections of a society that we would generally practice social habits that we would not condone today, I think it's kind of depletes as artists, our ability to be socially viable. Because if we continuously program pieces from an era that didn't allow for people of, like, for women to compose easily, Fanny Mendelssohn had to publish most of her works under Felix's name just so they could get published, and Clara Schumann had it's a wonderful career in spite of the constant setbacks that she faced because of her place in society at that point. And not to think about like Joseph Boulogne, who most of his works were destroyed because he was African American, and so we just have these few like kernels of gold from what he was written, but he wasn't able to get much work when he was alive. And so if we only program pieces from societies that inhibited other demographics to be represented, I think it makes our role as artists less impactful today, when we're trying to be very, very representative of our culture, which is much more diverse, which is very diverse. And an important part of the Institute for Composer Diversity is their orchestra analytics, because they've analyzed over the last couple of years every work programmed by every major American orchestra, and they found that 10% of all works that were performed last year were by Beethoven, and 10% were by women. And 5% were by Mozart, and 5% were by every other ethnicity, which is like really, that's kind of shocking. And given it was Beethoven's year, so people were preferring Beethoven more than usual, but they've done studies and they've come to the conclusion that it doesn't need to be a complete overhaul. We don't need to get rid of all the other music that we know and love, but the number they decided upon, the number they researched was 15% of a concert should represent another heritage. That's all it would take to make a lasting societal change, because it will like normalize a diversity in our art form. And so, just putting Coleridge Taylor's pieces in your program is really all we need to do to make an actual societal change as artists, and that is something that I really care about.
Yeah, that was very inspiring. I will definitely look into your project and to that database of lesser known or unknown composer pieces. That's very interesting. 15%. That also completely reminded me of the Oscars? You said like a certain percentage of the crew needs to be a diverse background or something like that. So I'm interested to see how your project will grow, and also to see your Dreamstage.
And to see my Dreamstage. Yes.
Actually, before I let you go, I should pick some questions from the audience, because I asked them, but I guess we have to answer a very common question since you do study at Juilliard. If you have any tips for people who are either auditioning or wanting to study at Juilliard. Your second year?
Third year.
Third year.
Third year. Yeah.
Junior.
Halfway there. Yeah, so it's a really, it's a difficult but rewarding process, auditioning for any school. I went to pre-college at Juilliard, so I was really fortunate to.
Wait, how many years? We never crossed.
I was at pre-college for 4 years. So I went there in 2014.
Wait, so you were there when I was there? We just never crossed paths. I mean, we probably did in the elevator or maybe on the 4th floor. Because I was there. Wasn't I there? Yeah. I was in the Columbia Juilliard exchange program from 14 to 18. Oh,
wow.
Okay, you were in pre-college. So I probably hated you. Because on Saturdays,
I didn't practice
with kids and taking over their practice rooms. I mean, I don't hate kids, but it was just harder to find practice rooms on Saturdays. And when they changed the rules with like certain, I think the kiosks, oh my gosh, that line on Saturday to get a practice room. Anyway, I still like kids.
For what it's worth, the kiosk lines are really long every day of the week now. So.
But I was smart to choose certain times when people aren't there. But anyway, that was a long time ago. Back to you, pre-college. Yes. So isn't it easier, the process?
It's easier process, I think, just because, I had the great fortune of just being like, I knew my teachers, and I knew like, there's a psychological element of like walking into a school that you've never seen before to audition, and then you go in front of this jury and you don't know anyone, and it's kind of like, and so I was really, really lucky that I like knew a lot of the people on the jury just personally, even if I hadn't played with them. And I like,
studied with Perlman, right?
Yes, right. I studied with Mr. Perlman and Leland. And so, that was really comforting, and it was comforting to like know where to go in the building. And so it was a much calmer experience. Great, and I'm very grateful for that. But
even for pre-college, that was your first time before you knew anyone. So now looking back, would you have any tips for people who are just entering and going like, I don't know anyone?
Yeah, it's really important to not try to read a jury. It's very tempting as any performer to, try to guess what's going on in the audience's head. Do they like me? Why is this person asleep? Why is this person coughing? If I was more engaging, they wouldn't cough. Yeah. So, and that's accentuated to the nth degree in a jury when they're all like there, and it's a well-lit room, and they're like all writing things.
Yeah.
But it's as Mr. Perlman says all the time, it's, someone might be grumpy because they had a bad breakfast that day. It really probably has nothing to do with you. And if it does, that's not really under your control. So it's really important to stay with yourself especially in an audition setting where there's just so much that is out of your control. And so it's just important to stay grounded and to know who you are, be okay with who you are. And yeah, just stay in that kind of headspace as opposed to looking for external validation, which you're not going to get from a jury just because they've been hearing. I can't imagine sitting on a jury for 10 hours a day. It sounds horrifying. So,
my teacher used to complain all the time. Oh my gosh, just finished an audition. Yeah. All right. I actually really like that advice. I hope people appreciate it. That's a much more practical advice, I think. I think that's pretty much it. That was a great talk. Thanks for coming on Classical Chat.
No, thank you for having me.
I just realized, I think the last time we talked was Mozart, right?
I think so. Yeah.
And I just remember we played a little bit of Beethoven there.
Yes. Yes. I thought about playing that piece for the Dreamstage, but yeah, that's too much dark music for one concert.
But I like the D minor thing. The D, is it minor? Or both are minor?
Both are minor.
Yeah, I like that linkage because personally I choose programs pretty much based on tonalities and keys.
Really? Okay.
Interesting. Well, good luck with your Dreamstage and with your school and everything else, with your project.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Thank you so much.
That was an inspiring chat. Thank you so much for watching, and thanks Nathan for coming on. I hope you will join in and listen to his recital on Dreamstage. I'm actually very interested because I've never heard of this composer before, and I will definitely check out his project. So I'll put all the links, everything there in the description, so check it out. If you've enjoyed this episode or any of the previous classical chats, don't forget to subscribe. And really, I rarely do this. You know this from my own channel, but I'm saying this here because we are a very new channel, and the more people we have here on this channel, the more people will be excited to come on and share their stories about classical music. So please subscribe, and I will see you soon.